Now, the last idea that I want to talk about is datetime arithmetics. And this idea is about how we can use mathematical operators with date and time. And this is quite useful because sometimes you want to do some calculation related to date and time. So for example, if I ask you, how old are you in days? How you will be able to answer like this question easily in Python? Let's say. First of all, let me show you this example. In this example here, I have defined two datetime objects. The first one is 1996, 11th of December. And I have 13, 24, 56 for time. And for date, for the second object, I have 1996, now 15th of December, and the time is 14, 24, 56. Now let's calculate the difference between these two datetime objects. How I can do that? Simply, I will use minus operator, as we use this minus operator with numbers. So if I say my datetime 2 minus my datetime 1, this will give me time difference object. First of all, I will check what is the type of this object, then I will print the object itself and its type. Let's see. We will see now that the object is from the class time delta, and time delta is object represent the difference between two datetime objects. And if I print this time difference, you will see that the difference is 4 days and 1 hour. As you see here, from 15th to 11th, or from 11th to 15th, we have 4 days. And the difference between these times, it's exactly 1 hour, 13, 14, because the minutes are the same and the seconds are the same. Now let's say I want to get access to this number only, which is 4. In this case, you have to say dot days and run. As you see now, 4 only has been printed as a number. Now if I want to get access to the hour, for example, let me check if there is hour. As you see here, there is no hour, and this is one limitation of this time data object. We have something like total seconds, and this function will give you the total number of seconds in difference, which means 4 days and 1 hour is about 349,200 seconds. Now let's say if we can use this object with date only. So I will comment this now, and I will show you this example. In this example, I will define only two date objects, as you see here. And here we have difference around 6 days or 7 days between these two dates. And then I will do the same thing. I will use minus operator to subtract one date from another. And then I will show you the type and the time difference. If I run, as you see here, I am able also to use minus operator with two date object without any problem. And this will give me the difference in days with two date object. The last point, let's check if we are able to do that with time only object. So let me comment this part, and then the third example is for time. And as you see here, I will define two time object. Then I will run my time minus my time 1. And as you see, I got error. Why error? This error is unsupported operand type because minus operator is not supported for time object. And this is quite important point. So time is supported only for date object and for datetime object. And you cannot use it for time only. And the question now, how to subtract one time from the another? Simply we can define two datetime object with the same date exactly, but the time is different, and then we can subtract one from another, and then we can know the difference in times. Until this point, all of the examples that we have seen are about how we can subtract one object from another, and this will give you the time difference. Now let's ask the question in a different way. Assume I have a time delta object and I want to know the date after or before this time delta. If I ask you, what is the date after 90 days from now? How you can answer like this question? Let me show you. First of all, let me comment this. If you remember at the beginning, I import time delta class from date time. Now let's see how we can use it. I will define td object, which is time delta. And for this time delta, I will pass days of 19. So now I have a time delta object of 90 days. And let's say the time now is equal to datetime.now. If I say show date and time and I pass this time now and run, you will see this is the current date and time. Now for simplicity, I will replace this function by print only because I just want to see the date and time value as you see here. So it's 1st of September 2020. Now, let's say I want to know what is the date after 90 days. So I will say tn plus td, and I will assign this to a variable, its name d. and then I will print D, and I will print also time now together, and check what I will get. You will see the date after 90 days is 30 of November. And it's quite useful and simple operation. We just use plus operator between datetime object and time delta object. And here you have to know that we can use plus or minus operator, which means if I want to know what is the date before 90 days from now, simply I will use minus. And if I run, you will see that the date is 3rd of June. The last note that I want to mention, my friend, that sometimes when you use this time delta class, you will find that it has some limitation. As I showed you before, that you cannot access, for example, to hour individually or to minute individually or to second individually, but you can get total number of seconds. If you want to overcome this issue, inside a module, it's named date utilities or date util, and it's not a built-in module. You have to install it before you use. Import relative delta. And relative delta is a class similar to time delta class, but with some advanced capabilities. So if you find that time delta class is not suitable for your use case, remember that there is another class will help you. It's named relative delta. Also, another point about datetime.now. And we remember that this class with this function will give me the current date and time. As you see here, if I print, this is the current date and time. Let me comment this. This is the current date and time. But this is for my current area. Sometimes you want to know what is the current date and time in a different area, for example, in Europe, in USA, or whatever. In this case, you have to specify the time zone. What I mean by this, let me show you. You have to know that from datetime utility, we can also import what we call time zone. And time zone is a class which will help you in the following use case. So I will say datetime.now. And now I will specify the time zone to be timezone.timezone local. And this again will give me the date time in my current area. And if you want to extract the name of this time zone simply from the object that you get, you can use the function timezone name, and this will print the name. As you see here, it's Malaysian Peninsula Standard Time. Now let's say that I want to get the time in a different area, not my local time. In this case, you have to use timezone with getTimezone function. And in this function, you have to specify the name of the area that you want to get the time for. So for example, Europe/Paris. And this now will give me the time inside this time zone. Now let me print this time. And as you see here, I get same date, but different time from my local time. Let me compare between my local time and current time. You will see that, let me print here now. Run. So you will see that this is the time in my area, which is 11:32, and currently I am in Malaysia. But the time in Europe, Paris, right now is 5:32. So there is around 6 hours difference between Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur, and France, Paris. And that's all for this code session. Now let me summarize what we have learned in this lecture. First of all, datetime module has been introduced as a module supplying classes and functions to work with date and time. Then we start to use datetime classes in order to define date, time, and datetime objects. Once we are able to get this object, we see how we can parse a string into date and time. In other words, how we can convert a string object into date and time. After that, we see how we can convert date and time into a string, which means a formatted string. And for these two ideas, we know that we can specify the exact format that we want using some standard symbols. You can get access to them by seeing the link provided in the appendix. Also, we have learned about date and time arithmetic, and we see that we can subtract one date from another. Or for example, I can add or decrease time delta from date in order to know what is the date after or before specific period of time. Now please refer to the file datetime module appendix, in which you will find all the functions that have been provided in this lecture have been summarized. Also, please refer to the file datetime module challenges, in which you will find some challenges to practice what you have learned in this lecture. Thank you very much for your time, and if you are available, join me in the next lecture.